the story where Paul is talking with the Epicureans and the Stoics. He's conversing back and forth with them in Acts chapter 17. And verse 22 says this, "Then Paul stood in the midst of Mars Hill." You probably maybe connect the story with just the word Mars Hill. And he says this, "Ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious. For as I passed by and I beheld your devotions, I found an altar with this inscription, To the unknown God." But then I love the next statement. And I think sometimes it doesn't get as much attention as it should. He says, "Whom therefore ye ignorantly worship." He's telling them, listen, you just don't know. You just don't know. And because you don't know, the next statement's my favorite. "Him declare I unto you." So listen, y'all. I know you just don't know. You ignorantly worship him. You just don't know, but I do. And so let me take this moment and let me share him with you. And this is what he says. He says, "God that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is the Lord of heaven and earth." He doesn't dwell in temples made with hands, neither is he worshipped with men's hands as though he needed anything. Seeing he giveth to all. He gives them life, and he gives them breath, and he gives them all things. And he's made of one blood all nations of men for him to dwell on all the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed and the bounds of their habitation, that they should seek the Lord, if haply they might fill after him and find him. And I love this next statement. This next statement's really powerful because the Epicureans and the Stoics believed that God was distant. He was uninvolved or didn't even care about their daily lives. And Paul says, it goes right at him. And he says this, "Though he be not far from every one of us." I love it. "And for in him we live and move and have our being, as certain also of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring. For as much then as we are the offspring of God, we ought not to think that the Godhead is like unto gold or silver or stone, graven by art and man's devices." And verse 30 is the hinge point in this whole passage. He says this, "In the times of this, ignorance God winked at. But now," two small but very powerfully packed words, "but now, he's commanded all men everywhere to repent." "Because he hath appointed a day in which he will judge the world in righteousness by that man whom he hath ordained, whereof he hath given assurance unto all men, and that he hath raised him from the dead." And this is what happened. After Paul shared who God is, then it says, "And when they heard of the resurrection of the dead, some of them mocked." Some of them just made fun of him. "And others said, well, we will hear thee again of this matter." Basically, we'll talk about it later. And so Paul departed. He left. And then verse 34, it says, "Howbeit certain men clave unto him and believed." I love it. I absolutely love. Obviously, I'm getting the opportunity to read that passage an awful lot, 30 sometimes over the church visits that we go to every time. It doesn't get old. And here's what I want to share with you. Here's the challenge. It's really just a quote, and to be honest, I really don't remember where I got it from. But I didn't come up with it. Somebody much smarter than me. It says this: "Paul was able to do this because he was not ignorant of the culture, nor was he consumed by it. But he observed the culture with the intent of proclaiming the gospel to it." Every time I read that and I think about what Paul did in this moment, he was incredibly creative. And I think he was creative because he was aware. He was looking for the opportunity. He walked into Mars Hill, already having a conversation with Epicureans and Stoics, but he walked in and seen this inscription, "To the unknown God." and said, all right, here's my window. Here's my opportunity. I want to share with them about my God, and I can take this moment. And I'll be honest with you, that's exactly what Jesus did. He seen a woman at the well, and he turned water into a gospel message. He was on a hillside with a bunch of people, and they needed some food, and so he took bread and then turned that into a gospel message. He took all kinds of physical objects and made them in. And so Paul is taking this inscription, and he's saying, here's my moment. Here's my opportunity. I'm going to use this very creatively, and I'm going to introduce them to Jesus. I love it. But I think what's even more powerful is that Paul was aware of the belief that the Stoics and Epicureans had. That God was distant, and he did all these different things. And Paul doesn't back down from the truth. He goes right at him. He says, listen, the word ignorant in our kind of culture, language, kind of has a negative connotation. I don't know if it necessarily did at this moment, but I kind of have the feeling that Paul's just going at him. Like, you're just ignorant. Like, you're just a bunch of idiots. Let me just tell you. Can I say that in a message? You're just a bunch of idiots. Let me just tell you. Like, I got this. You gonna try to edit that to me? Thanks. Listen, I know who he is. And so let me take this moment and tell you. And you all know about Paul. You know his story. Most of the time, his go-to was his own story. His personal testimony was his go-to. I had this experience with Jesus. I used to be this, but now I'm this. Listen, he wasn't ignorant of the culture. He was aware of what was going on. He was relevant, and he was looking for opportunities. But he didn't allow it to consume him to the point that it influenced him internally. And so as he's aware, looking, he's finding opportunity to influence it, to proclaim the gospel. Listen, I truly believe that that's our intent this summer. That's exactly what we're planning to do at Mount Hope Bible Camp, is we're going to find ways to be relevant to these kids. It may be through music, it may be through a mud pit, it may be through a swimming pool, it may be through something. We're going to connect with them on a relational level so that they trust us and they believe what we have to say about our God. And in that moment, we're hoping to take them on a journey into the unknown, a journey that maybe they've never experienced before. One that maybe they walked into the campgrounds and they never knew God. They maybe ignorantly worshiped him. And every one of our staff have the opportunity to say, him declare I unto you. This week, we're going to take the opportunity to introduce you to Jesus. That he's a father, he's a sustainer, he's a creator, he's all these different things. That's what it's about. Taking people on a journey of not knowing Jesus to knowing him intimately. That's what we're going to do this summer, but my challenge that I leave with you tonight is, what are you going to do tomorrow? Are you going to be looking for an opportunity? Are you aware of what our culture believes and what's going on around you? How can you be relevant but yet not consumed by our culture? Are you aware? Are you alert to those things? And are you looking for those opportunities not just for anything other than you want to proclaim Jesus in those moments? I'll be honest, I give you that challenge, but it resonates in my heart just the same. I want to be somebody and to be honest, we're all going to experience what Paul experienced. There's going to be some people that make fun of us. There's going to be some people that say, not now. It's maybe some other time. But I think there's going to be some people, if we look for those opportunities that God places in front of us and we take them, there's going to be some people that believe. And I think all we can ask of each one of us is to do what God has called us to do in those moments, to be aware and alert and creative and to proclaim Jesus.